Okay, so welcome to today's lesson, right? For this lesson itself, I want to do a quick recap on what we ended with the previous lesson, which is this particular unique estate in Woodlands, which was very, very much catered for the very young children because of the fact that they have so many different types of playgrounds. Now, you have to understand that when we are looking at estates and who do they cater for generally, one key reason for them having a particular slant or facing or looking after a particular group of people or a particular demographic, which is a age group of people, is because of who resides in the area. So if you do have very young estates, newly built buildings with young people buying those houses, starting families, then very naturally you would expect to see facilities that are for the young people and facilities for potentially their young children. So of childcare dominant, playground dominant estate would imply that this area has a lot of young people. Okay. On the converse side, if you look around our school area near the Tiong Bahru sector, you will realize that instead of the very young, you tend to have amenities that take care of the elderly. Okay, so keep this in mind. This is important, right? To recap what we have covered so far in terms of communities and amenities. So the next sector that we're looking at would be how housing can be sustainably managed. So why do we need to look at this idea of sustainable development? Okay, why is it important? Because as city grows, right, you have different stakeholders and everybody has a different need. Your needs for your neighborhood is going to be very different from your grandparents' needs in your neighborhood, which will be different from your parents' needs as well. Okay, so the things that you need to use, the things that you need access to, the things that will make your life a lot easier in terms of transportation, in terms of moving around, will be different. Urbanization is on the rise. Everywhere you go, in which many countries in the world, they are trying very hard to urbanize to allow people to come and live in a more modern, more urban, more um, convenient sort of way. So cities are terribly convenient, but cities do have a problem. When you're building more cities, you have more and more needs, more and more wants, and as a result, this cannot continue forever because we have a limited amount of resources. Right. So when we look at sustainable development, what are we looking at? We're looking at how we can do integrated land use. Okay, one piece of land with multiple uses. How we can do inclusive housing, housing that caters to everybody's needs. How we can look at green cities. What are green cities within the world that we can look at? Cities that have very zero energy, zero fossil fuel, low emissions. Cities like what Singapore is trying to become. And finally, we will also look at content builder, which is the HDB Green Town Plan. This is an additional content that is brought in so that you, as a graduating lower sec student, will have a greater idea of what exactly we're looking at in terms of how Singapore tries to develop sustainably. So when we're looking for integrated land use planning, right, the key problem here is there are many different uh, demands for land. Okay, housing, residential, factories, industrial, okay, agricultural, farming, and of course recreational. Okay, places for you to relax and have fun. Right now, how is Singapore planned? If you look at this map here of Singapore, okay, this is called a chloropleph map. Right? Can you please write this down? This is a chloropleph map. It shows you the distribution of different types of categories within the map itself. So if you look at very carefully, where are the business areas focus on? Actually, business, the industrial area, you're looking at the western part of Singapore, Jurong area. There are also clusters all over, but the biggest cluster is in the west. If you're looking at residential, you will note that residential area is actually in the middle portion to the south, right? But generally in the mid portion of Singapore, right? Compared to the rest of it, or compared to your commercial space, which tends to be dominated near the central core here, right? This is the area where you'll find your CBD, where you'll find places like Orchard Road, all the way down to Shenton Way, and of course, open spaces that's for recreation. Now, this is everywhere. Okay, but bear in mind, this island here is open space. It's not for recreation. This sector over here is also space, also not for recreation. These are your SAF training areas. Okay, so this is SAF, and this over here is Pulau Tekong, which is also SAF. Right? Can you take note of this on your own slides. Okay, so what we're doing, we're trying to allocate enough space for all the various needs that Singapore has in terms of industrial, residential, agricultural, and recreational. Okay, so a closer look at it, right? These are your in detail, what are the areas they're looking at, right? Do you know where Changi Airport is? Right, this whole area here is Changi Airport. Okay, on the western side, right, this area here is your Jurong development area. Okay, where's Tengah? Tengah, the forest town, right? The up and coming HDB residential area. It is actually in the northwestern part of Singapore. Okay, your Greater Southern Waterfront, where you have Marina Bay and facing Sentosa area, Vivo City, and all. Right, this is your very big commercial use area. Okay, there's also increasingly more and more residential areas here. So this is actually how they propose to use the land in Singapore. Moving on beyond 2030, when you will become an adult. Now, within the towns itself, right, when you're looking at integrated approach to living, you will note that in many of our HDB towns, we try to have spacing for different things. Okay, like industries, small factories, right, to provide employment for the people who are living in the area. Tertiary occupations, things like your service sector, you may have small little banking branches, finance offices in your towns as well, to provide not only for the people of the town, but sometimes to provide a facility for several towns, nearby towns. They can come here and do these tertiary and enjoy these tertiary occupations and services provided by them. Finally, agriculture, right? So I want to highlight one thing. In Singapore, we do have some agriculture. This can be your rooftop farms. Okay, rooftop farms. We have seen videos of this in Sec 1, right, where they actually use HDB buildings, sometimes multi-story car parks, sometimes the roof of HDB buildings, and convert them into high-tech farming to produce green vegetables. Okay, so this is HDB's idea of an integrated approach to living, where you have space allocated. Okay, sometimes on a single piece of land you have multiple users, right? Like the residential block has an agricultural use at the very top, on top of the building itself. Okay, so this is a Jurong Lake District, the plans of Jurong Lake District. So let's take a look. The high-speed rail currently with Malaysia is on hold, so we may not see this anytime soon. But the rest of it is going to be coming as well. Okay, the integrated hub, office, gardens, sky gardens within the office itself, right? Sky bridges allowing for recreational space, and within the building itself, you may have mixed use like offices plus housing. So this is the plan for the Jurong Lake District. Right, it looks very integrated and looks very green, very importantly, because you're looking at a form of sustainable living environment where people will come here, people will work here, people will live here. So look at the MRT lines that are in place and upcoming. It's basically to ensure that the Jurong Lake District becomes a central node, point of intersection for all of these travel points and different MRT trains and lines. Currently, these places are not developed yet, so these places are, if you go to visit them, they will be open spaces or they'll be covered with vegetation, like they will look like forest areas, but when it is time to harness them and use them for development, they will be developed into what you see here. So Jurong is up and coming place, right, with a lot of exciting developments, and it is no longer going to be just industrial area, right? There will be a lot of new recreational area to support this large population of people. Okay. This is another thing that they have tried to build in. They are planning to build in. They have actually started doing this in Tengah already, the district cooling system, where you have centralized air conditioning for all the HDB flats. Should you opt for it, it's environmentally friendly, and as a result, you do save the environment quite a bit. This looks very futuristic and all, right? And you can note there's only public buses, there's no cars on the road, the cars all run underground. Okay, so this will allow more pedestrian walkway, allow things like a cycling track all around the town itself, and to promote healthy living, okay, and also environmentally friendly environment. So this is what Jurong Town Hall is planned to be. it will integrate some of the old things that we have there. Science Center area is still there. If you were to visit Jurong now, it will not look like this, right? But if you were to visit Jurong in another 30 to 40 years, this could very well be what you see. Okay. Now, there is a link back to your textbook on page 79, right? These are some very important concepts that they talk about. Okay, please remember integrated land use planning requires every stakeholder to come together. Okay, the industrial people want land for building factories because they want to sell more things, make more things, sell more things, right? But at the same time, the residential people who want to live in the area want the same piece of land to be used for housing. So how? Right, there's only one piece of land. So many a times the government has to come in and take a look who has a greater need. Is there a way to integrate first? If there isn't, then which of these stakeholders have a greater need? And you do a trade-off, right? So there's always give and take. There's always this idea of trade-off. I take some of it for one use. You may not be able to develop as much of your factory as you want, or because I need to give some space to residential areas. For another way of looking at it would be we share the same piece of land, right? So how does that limit my industrial area? Instead of having the ability to do large scale industries, I may then have to find a way to mechanize, make use of machines, right? So I have less manpower, or find a cleaner form of production capability so that the people who live next to my factory will not get affected by pollution. Okay, so the magic word here is compromise. Right, so remember Singapore is famous for working around managing trade-offs. Okay, and as a result we come to a compromise and we can integrate everything together. Okay, so I will stop here. Take a moment, think through what we have done so far. If there are additional videos for you to catch up on content, right, look through the playlist itself and do a recap for yourself.